Piss off, ghost!
That's a good one.
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest super entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name's Mike Royer.
And this is the Superhero Slate review for Thor Ragnarok.
Thor Ragnarok, finally. The third in the series, and supposedly this would be the last one, I guess, if you can compare it to all the other Iron Man and Captain America out there, right?
At least that we know of. Yes.
Yeah.
They've not announced any movies beyond Infinity, or I guess Avengers 4. So we know a Guardians 3 is coming, a Spider-Man's coming, but nothing, I guess, solid. But yeah, so it's out. It's a third Marvel movie this year as well. Fun fact, I just found this out before the show started. Thor Ragnarok has pushed Marvel Studios into the first franchise to cross $5 billion at the North American box office.
Man, yeah, and we are recording this at the end of opening weekend, and we can see domestically that we got 120 million. That's nothing to, I guess they say, shake a stick at, if you will.
Yeah.
But foreign box office is already coming in. This movie is already almost at $500 million, just over $425 million. So yeah, this no one's worried about Disney going bankrupt. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I think everyone, judging by the numbers, is happily going to see Thor for the third time. So, so that's good. Man, we have not talked about this movie. We've been quoting Korg the entire time before this movie started, or this podcast started, but we have not talked about this movie at all.
Yeah, so. just like most things when it comes to superhero related movies and TV shows, we're usually kind of like off the radar, and we kind of bury the lead until we get on the microphone. So we're going to give you guys our initial thoughts, and then once that's out there, we're going to jump into spoilers.
Yeah, so I guess I'm going to jump in with initial thoughts because I want to go into my movie viewing experience over in spoilers.
Okay.
But to me, Thor Ragnarok is a great movie. And it's not the drastic change of Thor that we were kind of promised along the way, but I definitely see how this affects the overall Marvel Cinematic Universe for the next, I guess, 2 years. And it's fun watching everyone on screen have fun and laugh. When people say it's hilarious, this is a very funny movie. And it doesn't slow down on that a lot of times. But there's some great action scenes. It's funny to me. I had a great time. I love the new characters they added to the movie. Such as, like we mentioned, Korg and some other ones we'll talk about in spoilers. But overall, this is my favorite of the Thor movies by a long shot.
Yeah, I think that's really easy to say, is this is the best of the Thor movies. And it's actually really great how well it's performing, considering the past Thor movies have been very lukewarm, and they're usually kind of bashed on as kind of some of the bottom rung Marvel movies. But I heard something recently online that said, Marvel movies are basically like an episode in this giant series just called Marvel. So it's like every time a new movie comes out, you're just like watching a new episode in the cinematic universe. And that's kind of what this feels like. Not every episode of a TV show is even. Some are better than others. Some are more dramatic. Some lean kind of funny. So I feel almost like now when you're reviewing a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, you can't just review it kind of on its own, and I think I'll bring this up a little bit more later. But yeah, this movie is very, very funny. I think it's the funniest Marvel movie ever made, which I think has pros and cons to it.
That's saying a lot in a year where Guardians 2 and Spider-Man both came out. So
yeah, I know. Like it's been a very funny year for Marvel movies. But at the same time, that kind of really makes me hungry for a dramatic Marvel movie. I mean, I think my favorite Marvel movie is The Winter Soldier, and I think it just has the perfect level of like intrigue, drama, and then what I consider to be like the Marvel humor is when it's peppered in just at the right time. You know, you're having drama and laughs almost evenly. Like Thor Ragnarok is just almost hysterical the whole way through, almost to a fault. You know, I'll bring up those moments in the spoiler cast, but it's not a perfect movie, but it's a damn good movie. So I think that would be my initial thoughts on Thor.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the best Marvel movie, but it is the best Thor movie. And of the this is the third of the big three, Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America, to get its trilogy ended, I guess. Mm-hmm. I think people will like it better than Iron Man 3. And I think... I don't know how to compare it to Civil War at the end of the day. Like, those are two whole different beasts. And that to me, that's a good thing. Like, the genre mix up, like you mentioned, you want a dramatic Marvel movie. And I'm looking forward to that in Black Panther. I don't think that one's going to be as funny as this one by a long shot. So I do think that this story for Thor, this adventure, where they just kind of let Chris Hemsworth and Taika Waititi and... I want to say Bruce Banner, but that's not the actor's name.
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo. It's who's essentially Bruce Banner, and like all these actors embody the role so well. So
I thought you were trying to go for this like a clever dichotomy of just like, oh well, was it Hulk in the movie or was it Bruce Banner? Who really had top billing in this movie?
Yeah, exactly. So there's so many good things to talk about, and I think if you don't see this in theaters, you're doing yourself an injustice at the end of the day. So I think my review is it's a great movie. It's not the best Marvel movie, but it is the best Thor movie, and you should definitely watch it in theaters as soon as you can.
Yeah, I mean, before we jump into spoilers here, if you had to rank it among the other MCU movies this year, where does it go? Did you like Guardians more? Did you like Spider-Man: Homecoming more? What are you feeling?
I really like Guardians too. I mean, I know there's so many Marvel movies out there now, like I think 17, 18. Everyone's got their own opinion of where these all rank. And to me, Guardians 2 sits above Guardians 1 simply because I think it was a tighter script and had better music. This one is probably a little bit below that. And then Spider-Man on the third rung, because Spider-Man I felt was a safe addition to the MCU because Spider-Man has just been overplayed so much from Sony that I feel like Spider-Man was a very safe entry and didn't really change the world as we knew it. So Thor Ragnarok, as we'll talk about in spoilers, has some long-lasting effects for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think that really is important to me on the whole. Where would you put it?
It's hard to say just because I feel like, to be fair, you would almost have to go back and rewatch all of the movies, because Guardians I feel like was almost like ages ago because it was towards the beginning of the year, I feel like. I don't know. I feel like the humor in Guardians makes a little bit more sense in the long run than it does in Thor. I'm glad Thor kind of made a stop at like at that station on its journey, but I don't think it needs to stay there. But I think Guardians is safe to stay there. But I think Spider-Man: Homecoming just really worked for me. So I don't know. Yeah. I think right now Spider-Man's at the top, but I'm gonna rewatch them all at some point in time, and then we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, totally. I mean, again, like I said, there are so many Marvel movies out there. Everyone can have their own favorite one, and nobody has to agree anymore. Like Phase 1, like everyone's like, okay, these are easy to rank. Now they've gone into different genres and different directors and different, tones, and you're like, I don't like what I enjoy might not be what Mike enjoys or resonates at that point in time in his life. Like this is great. Like we are in a great era of Marvel movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, and this is very much a Taika Waititi movie. Like it doesn't feel like Marvel was pulling any punches when it came to like Taika making the movie he wanted to make. It almost kind of makes me wonder, like, I feel like if not the Russo brothers, the two guys that were going to do the Han Solo movie. What's their name?
Lord and Miller?
Lord and Miller, yeah. I feel like maybe if Lord and Miller had their chance at a Han Solo movie, I'm not saying it would have turned out wacky and goofy like this movie would have been, but I feel like it would have very much felt like their film. And whereas, like, Star Wars, I don't think they want that kind of unique perspective seeping into their big-ass franchise. But maybe now, since these Marvel movies have been going on for so long, maybe they're just like, well, we don't really have a choice. We got to keep these movies fresh. We're the 18th movie's coming out here soon. We can't just stick to kind of like a formula like Star Wars might be sticking to a formula, but
it's one of those situations where to look at the first Hulk movie was a bold addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in and of itself. We'd had Iron Man, Hulk, and Iron Man 2, and then they gave us Thor, this space god with the power of lightning and, near invulnerable. And it worked. Like, in the realm of Phase 1, Thor really works really well. And I know a lot of people who still really like the first Thor, and like the story it tells. But then we get into the first couple movies of Phase 2, Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World. And this is where Marvel President Ike Perlmutter was still in charge of Marvel Studios. And was pulling budgets and making things happen that obviously didn't work out for everybody. Because I know there are people who like Thor the Dark World. That's their favorite Marvel movie. But on the whole, it doesn't hold up very well over time. And, even this, they do reference it in Ragnarok, like right off the bat, because this picks up from that with the same characters. So, I mean, I think there's been a lot of changes, and, if you want to point the finger at Star Wars will have to adapt this approach later on. And I think a lot of studios may have to adapt this approach where the director makes the movie they want to make with the characters they have.
Yeah, so. It's very much untouched territory. I mean, there's no other franchise out there that has 18 movies, right? That's a continuous story. I mean, maybe James Bond. I don't even know what number James Bond is on, but that is not one continuous story. So they're in this fresh territory. They're in the deep end. That's for sure.
That's right. So $5 billion in North America later. Let's get into the spoilers of this, Mike. Let's get into the nitty gritty. If you've not seen this, don't listen beyond this. Go watch it, then come back. Click pause. We'll wait for you. Okay, you're back, thankfully. We're gonna talk spoilers now. So
yeah, let's do it. Oh my God, Korg, that dude was amazing. Voiced by the director Taika Waititi. If you didn't know, that was just something special. Like, I think whether or not you may like the comedy in the movie, maybe thought it was too much, or maybe loved it. I mean, Korg is just this gem that's like, he's just in this. Like I was telling you before we started recording the show. Like, as soon as like footage of this movie becomes available, whether it's pirated or maybe coming out digitally, someone's gonna make a supercut of all of Korg's lines. And we were looking on IMDb earlier to see if any of his quotes has made it up yet. And man, that dude is hilarious.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Korg voiced and I think motion captured by Waititi himself. He shows up as another fellow warrior in there. And he's got it's very Australian, New Zealand humor, like you mentioned earlier. Like Flight of the Conchords, What We Do in the Shadows. A lot of that bleeds through the Korg character. Because, I mean, it's just like, he's not dumb, but he's just like kind of calling it out as he hears it.
And it's like the best way to look at how Taika kind of infected his movie. He's there on set, and not only is he on set, he's in some of the scenes, like through motion capture, and it's just like everyone's just having a good time, palling around, having fun, just like making jokes. And like, of course, like he made sure that he got like the funniest lines in the movie. Except Thor. Like, I think one of the biggest audience laughter moments in this movie, which is I think why you do need to, like you said, you need to go see it in a theater just because the crowd, was when Thor was telling the story about how when Loki turned into a snake when they were kids, and he's like, oh, he knows how much I like snakes, so I pick up that snake, and he transformed back and said, boo, and then he stabbed me. Like, that was just so hilarious, and it's just like, oh my God, I want to see that scene play out.
Oh yeah, so I mean, it's like kind of like that. Chris Hemsworth has evolved. I mean, he was in I believe the Vacation reboot, which was a comedy, and Ghostbusters, and he's really kind of got to flex those comedy chops, his timing, and like his delivery. It's kind of on point with everything he delivers here. I mean, he starts the movie off telling the story of Thor and Thor the Dark World to a skeleton, kind of like in a cage. He had some really good. I liked his fight scenes with Surtur at the beginning, like against the fire demons and stuff.
Oh yeah, were you expecting to see Surtur so candidly and so quickly?
I knew from the trailers Thor had long hair, and that was about it. I couldn't piece this movie together from the trailers. Looking back, I'm like, no, I would never have guessed where a lot of this went.
Well, yeah, and you actually couldn't, because I was talking about this with my wife in the car. the trailers have straight up been manipulated to not look like the movie. And I don't know if this is intentional or maybe at some point in time the movie gets changed, but the scene where Hela smashes Thor's hammer in every trailer, she is in an alley that looks like it's probably New York. So that's where I was expecting to see Hela show up to destroy his hammer. But in the movie, it happened in that open pasture, in that open field in like, where are they, like Ireland or some sort of...
Norway.
Norway, yeah. That makes sense now. But so that was totally changed. So I'm really curious, was that intentional when the trailer was cut to throw people off? Because it's hard for me to imagine. Well, maybe 2 scenes could have been filmed. I don't know, but
so it was
just kind of like.
I'll fill you in on this actually.
Yeah, fill me in.
Because there was a TV spot that got ruined when I was watching some show that showed Hela in the field, pretty much. Mm-hmm. So like the within the last month they had more of the updated stuff, but they said we had it in the city, but he's like the city really wasn't that cool. But they've also added like a whole half hour to this movie from the original cut. So they've gone back.
Wow.
Like, the first version of this wasn't working, so they've had to retool some stuff to make it this final version that we saw. And that was one of the... Also, I don't know if you saw this in the trailers. We had Loki fighting with a bunch of the gladiators, and that was like in a valley of rocks and not on the Bifrost Bridge.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you remember that. That's a couple things. We never got the Revengers scene where Thor's like, "Oh, we're the Revengers," with Hulk, Valkyrie, Loki, and Thor on the bridge. We never saw that one. And then the biggest fucking change is they showed us 2 glowing eyes, Mike. They held off on letting us know Thor lost his eye as well.
Yeah, they did, and maybe like very big budgets. I'm sure that they had the top man on that job, but like. I mean, I don't know if it was maybe because it was PG-13, but I was just like, it kind of just looks like they have some sort of like motion tracked asset on his face or something like that. So, yeah, but whatever. But I did kind of, speaking of like the eye and the glowing and the thunder, I did kind of like this message that they did bring up through the movie that said, you're not the god of hammers, you're the god of thunder, which is a really big point. He's relied on that hammer literally every single movie he's been in. So it's actually was really impressive to kind of see him being the god of thunder. And it's almost, I feel like I'm seeing the character being like leveled up. And the first thing I thought was, this is going to be really handy when he's like fighting Thanos, because he's going to need that thunder. So,
but what about when they just pull that out from under him though? Because his power came from Asgard itself, like Hela. Now Asgard's dead, so they leveled him up and then took him back down.
Well, Chris, as we all know, Asgard is a people, not a place. So maybe it's some sort of holistic, like, as long as the people are on Earth, he'll have that power while he's on Earth, or maybe it'll be diminished a little bit. I don't know. There's ways that they can figure it out, but we all know he's going to get the hammer back somehow, or maybe a battle axe, like we've seen him in the comics before.
Well, that, and then the Infinity War trailers, he had like a big sword and like the axe Jarnborn. He's definitely got some stuff he can use. So I mean, him losing the eye and kind of becoming the default Odin at the end of the movie was very interesting to see. Thor's, I guess, his arc, learning his powers a little bit, fighting his sister. Hela turned out to be his sister in this movie, which was a big twist to me. But I kind of want to talk about the action. I think the action kind of goes unnoticed because of the humor. I really like some of the fighting scenes in this movie, Mike. And
yeah, you were talking about it there a moment ago at the beginning of the movie when he was fighting Surtur. Like, holy crap, that was like super cool. Like he's fighting all these demons. He's in this hell landscape. We're playing Led Zeppelin music, and it's just like I felt like I was looking at the front of Heavy Metal magazine. With millions of dollars of animation executing that vision. It was just, oh man, it was so cool. I was just like, I was smiling the whole time watching it. Like, there was an amazing shot where like the camera is locked onto Thor's hammer that's swinging around him. Yeah. That was so cool.
And then he pauses it and brings it back around again. Like, I mean, the way that you were following that hammer was really great. And he fought the dragon, Surtur's dragon, which lost its head at the end of it. I also think Hela came kind of formidable. Just the way she was brutally killing people, like not just disabling them. She was killing everybody left and right. And
yeah, And I don't know exactly how her powers are portrayed in the comic books, but I do like how she had these infinite daggers and stakes and stuff. I actually thought that was a really cool power.
Oh yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know, but she always has to put her helmet on to use them. I noticed in this, like she always had to put the helmet on to use her powers. So I don't know if that's something where she generates her powers from, because there is a picture with Odin wearing that exact helmet, kind of on the ceiling in the throne room.
Yeah, I mean the helmet thing was, I would say, slightly gratuitous. It's one thing that was brought up to me by some other people that saw the movie, was just like, it was cool the first time she did it because we saw her do it in the trailers, and then I think she did it one other time and I was like, okay, I think we don't need to see the transformation anymore. And then I think it happened like 4 times in the movie, and it's just like, all right, we get it. Like there needs to be a quicker way to put that thing on, because it's just like the flourish around her hair just kind of stopped being cool after a while.
Yeah, she did it quite a bit. But I mean, I like when she took on the Asgardians, it wasn't just like, oh, cut to her already beating everybody. Like, it did show her take down a lot of the Asgardian warriors, fighting them 1 on 100. And it was kind of sad to see a lot of the main characters kind of get killed off pretty quickly.
Yeah, very, very easily. There's a lot of death that happens in this movie that's just, I feel we don't really have a moment to really sit with it. We haven't even talked about this character yet, but Karl Urban's character, Scourge. Yeah. He goes out at the end of the movie, and it's just like, all right, on with the next joke.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't say it was on to the next joke. I mean, there are a lot of these characters who died. We don't have a lot of time with them over the 3 movies anyway. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't too like, oh, well, there go the Warriors 3. They were so crucial to winning all the movies, because they weren't really into a whole lot. But, I mean, I think the new characters they brought in were interesting. Like Valkyrie. I really like Valkyrie. Her drunken shenanigans on Sakaar were very, very interesting. They never explained how she got away from Hela, which I hope maybe they do one day. But, like, the Valkyries were definitely interesting to see as well. Mm-hmm. But speaking of fights, what did you think of the main event, Hulk versus Thor? Did that live up to your expectations?
Well, I actually wasn't expecting that to be a really big fight, to be honest. You know, when you see a movie like Batman vs. Superman, where the fight is in the title of the movie, you know, you're kind of expecting like a really big bout to happen. But in this movie, I almost thought it was going to be over very quickly or something like that. But yeah, it actually was extended for a little while, and I thought it was pretty cool to see them fight it out, because we've never really seen them go like full throttle. So it was really awesome seeing Thor finally pick up that giant hammer and like just knock Hulk around. Yeah. That was really sweet.
Yeah, he got his own little hammer there to beat Thor or Hulk around a little bit. And then yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of wish there'd been more gladiator battles, because it was one and done. Mm-hmm. But I think that left it for some good, again, to keep on the action, was the action on the bridge, the Rainbow Bridge. Seeing everyone kind of, you know, Thor get his lightning powers and kind of bring back that Zeppelin song and just go to town on all those undead soldiers he was fighting was pretty good. Yeah, and to be honest, my wife was like, oh my gosh, there's a big dog in this movie. I'm like, yeah, that's the wolf Fenris, and he was a zombie dog, apparently.
Don't get attached to the dog. If it's a monster, things aren't going to end well.
Yeah, so Hulk fighting the Fenris was pretty cool. And I thought, I mean, he did puncture Hulk's leg. I thought it was going to be something was going to go on there, but I guess it wasn't anything. We were just reading too into it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess they were just maybe trying to show that the wolf is formidable. But I was actually wondering, like, how are they going to show defeating this wolf on screen? Because it was like you said, like kind of like a zombie dog, but it didn't look like a mutant. It literally just looked like an enlarged wolf. So it's just like, well, they're not going to show Hulk smashing that dog's face in front of like a bunch of people in a movie theater. So it made sense that once it was kind of thrown off that cliff, I was like, okay, that's probably the end of the wolf.
Yeah, this is where a lot of the flat earthers get their theories from. Mike is from Asgard. A couple, I guess, cameos I wanted to point out. At the beginning, we saw a play of The Dark World.
Oh my god! And
there are three actors I know very well playing these roles. As Loki, it was Matt Damon.
Oh my god! Yeah,
it was so funny. And then to see Sam Neill step out as Odin. He could have played Odin in the movie, and I totally would have been fine with that as well. Like,
yeah,
he came in, and then Chris Hemsworth's brother Luke Hemsworth from Westworld was Thor.
Yes, the lesser Hemsworth got
Yeah,
to play the lesser Thor.
The lesser known Hemsworth. So I thought that was a really fun scene to kind of see that play come in the fact there. Stan Lee got his cameo as the hairdresser, Barber Stan.
Yeah, it kind of looked like the getup that he had on almost made it look like they're trying to throw it back to maybe like an older comic book character, because it looked like a very designed costume. I was like, I almost look like I'm looking at like a Mega Man, like a Mega Man villain.
Yeah, I didn't see anything that stood out to me in the comic books, but you definitely could be right. I know they filmed a lot. Remember they filmed a lot of these cameos on one day, so
yeah,
they were like, hey, we got some costumes here. Let's throw one on you real quick.
Please, nice old man, don't cut my hair.
Yeah, that's right. And then we'll talk. I mean, do you want to talk about end credits now? I got these thenotes here for the end credits. If you wanted to.
I mean, we might as well. We don't keep this structured, man. Whatever's flowing through your head, talk about it.
So a lot of people have messaged me actually and sent me their reviews saying they really enjoyed the movie. So thank you for sending those. At the first end credits, we see Thor and I believe Loki like on a ship with all the remains of the Asgardian people, and Meek, who was killed and then came back to life, I guess.
Oh, poor Meek.
Yeah, but the ship is then dwarfed by a larger ship called the Sanctuary 2, which in the comic books, Sanctuary 2 is Thanos' home ship. In this one, it's probably also his home ship, but even though it looks differently, the design's different.
Yeah, they really wanted to make that end credit scene as vague as possible for anybody that didn't know anything about like kind of Thanos or his crew, because like the ship very much did have a very unique design, but to be honest, when I saw it, I didn't know who it belonged to. I mean, I was trying to really think back to the Guardians movies, like, oh, have we seen this ship before? The design looks very specific, like it's part of maybe some sort of culture of like an alien race or something. I had to Google it to find out that it was Thanos' ship.
You would actually be correct, because to me it looked Chitauri. I'm like, oh look, it's another Chitauri ship. And it's based on the Chitauri designs, because that was Thanos' army from the Avengers movie. The first Sanctuary is like an asteroid field where the original, I guess the Chitauri lived, and Thanos had like his little like floating platform where he
his first cameo.
Yeah, so that was Sanctuary 1. Sanctuary 2 is his big ship, which is, I presume he's going to grab the Infinity Stone that Loki obviously took from the vault. So
yeah.
Because otherwise, how did he get out of there so quickly?
Yeah, Thanos must have some sort of like a Infinity Stone detector on his ship where he can just like find out wherever they are.
It's like a Dragon Ball radar.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best way to put it. Yeah. Once you get all the stones together, you can make a wish to destroy the planets.
Exactly. It's some dragon. But then also the last thing credits was more Jeff Goldbluming around the whole time.
Oh my God! Talk about, this is like the most Jeff Goldblum I've ever seen.
Oh man, he was like. I mean, if anything I've learned about the Marvel movies, the Collector and the Grandmaster, batshit crazy people, and they let them go all out. They're like, go for it, be as crazy as you want. We
got to see those two get together in some way.
Yeah, and Feige said it's going to happen, so I definitely think that we'll see them later. But they both end up with their whole, I guess, civilization in ruins, because each had their own planet. They were kind of like, oh, now it's kind of blown up. I enjoyed the Willy Wonka theme that they used, Pure Imagination, when Thor went in there. I don't know if you noticed that or not. I had a really good time with that.
Well, you were mentioning briefly at the beginning here about your theater going experience that you haven't gotten into yet. I unfortunately had this young man in front of me in the row that made it a point to tell all of his family every time any sort of Easter egg or anything popped up. And it's just like, kid, you gotta sit down and just enjoy the movie. I don't need to hear you piping up every time something clever pops up on the screen. Like, because he's there seeing it with his family that just wants to see a movie. So every time any little thing pops up, like, oh, that's Doctor Strange, it's just like, well, yeah, you can, it's literally, that's not even an Easter egg. That is Doctor Strange is on the screen. You don't need to say. Then the Willy Wonka thing pops up, and then he's leaning to his left, telling his, like, dad, oh, this is the Willy Wonka theme. Leaning over to his right, telling his sister, this is the Willy Wonka theme. It's just like, we get it. You don't need to prove that you're the best movie watcher ever. So I did appreciate the Willy Wonka scene, but I was a little unnerd for other reasons.
Well, never mind then. But yeah, mine was different. I actually got to go to the theater that has the power reclining seats.
Ooh.
And it was a special fan event or whatever. So they gave us these collectible coins. It's got Thor's helmet on one side and Hulk's helmet on the other. There's big heavy coins, free popcorn, stuff like that. And I went with my cousin and her husband. They got tickets and went with us. We didn't have a full theater, but they didn't say Thor Ragnarok. It says a fan event. ... Then you have to click on it to see it says Thor Ragnarok. So
geez, yeah, that's not gonna be.
But reclining theaters were good. To me, I can go to the IMAX and feel just as happy, to be honest here. But I definitely see the desire, I definitely see the draw with them. So so there's that. I mean, we got there a little early and waited in line. We were like third in line, so we got primo seats, Mike. Primo seats. I was able to recline too in my theater, so that was great as well. Yeah, so you didn't sit lean it forward and then punch the kid in the head for talking during the movie.
Yeah, no, it would have been great though. Yeah. I very much wanted that.
So overall, this movie to me very funny. There are some good action points. The characters there, but at the same time, it's kind of forgettable. If I was to be honest, I think it's because of the way comedy works. You know, like you mentioned on the way home, you're like, oh, we butchered the Korg lines. You just remember laughing at them in the general premise, but not what they were. So,
yeah, I mean, you do make a good point because, like, there are very big things that happen in this movie that directly affect the Marvel Universe, like Asgard falling to dust, a whole civilization having to get on a spaceship and fly into space. But at the end of the day, like, I totally forget that Asgard burned to the ground because, you know, Asgard really didn't hold as much weight in the MCU, I guess, just because we were only ever there with Thor, and sometimes Thor wasn't even there at all. He was on Earth in his second movie, and he kind of was there for like half of it in the first movie. So, yeah, big things happen, and you just kind of forget, so I guess I'm going to dive into a couple of things that I didn't like about the movie, just to kind of even things out, because overall I did like the movie, but there's some flaws here. So the humor in this movie did reach levels which were a little uncomfortable, and the last time I felt that was with Iron Man 3. So Iron Man 3 undercut so many dramatic moments in that movie with just like a joke or something to that effect that I really didn't like. And this movie got a little close to that. There was one scene that made my whole theater laugh with explosion, but I thought it just wasn't the right time for the joke, was when Hulk jumped out of the Grandmaster's sex ship onto the Rainbow Road, and we all expecting him to turn into the Hulk and maybe do the superhero landing onto the bridge, but no, he just lands flat on his face and basically dies as Ruffalo. I thought it was a funny joke, you know, that's a really funny little sketch that maybe could happen at another point in the movie, but it's just like, we're in the third act of this movie, like Asgard is falling, like people are getting crammed onto this bridge, like this whole society, which really flexes in numbers. I feel like sometimes on the bridge it looks like a couple thousand, but then that long shot at the very end, it looks like there's like hundreds of thousands on this ship. The population of Asgard is very fluid depending on what shot they need. But like then Hulk, it just lands flat on his face. It just totally diffused any tension that they built, which it's just like it's a hilarious joke. I really appreciate it. I thought it was funny, but then like I wanted the tension there, so it was, these two things were kind of swirling around each other through the whole movie, and sometimes it paid off going for the joke, and sometimes it didn't pay off.
I'm gonna say that's a bad example, because that's a direct throwback to the Incredible Hulk, where he throws himself out of the helicopter to fight the Abomination, and that's exactly what he did. He's like, oh, it's gonna work like it did last time, where he turned in as soon as, like, right before he hit the ground, and that was a throwback to that moment.
Well, I think it's fair to say that you might be one of the only people that were thinking of the Incredible Hulk movie when that scene happened. I think a lot of people have forgotten about that movie. But that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to hate on what happened. I think that is hilarious. And if that would have happened maybe in the second act or the first act of the movie, I think it would have been great. But it's just like, I think it's just like I'm craving more drama in the MCU right now, and I think we didn't get a whole lot of that this summer, which is not like a bad thing. You know, these are all different movies, but like we did get like a series of 3 very funny Marvel movies, and I need somebody to like die, and I need it to mean something. Like we got that with Yondu at the very end of Guardians, and I really appreciated that. So that was really nice. That was a really heartfelt moment. I really loved the dramatic scene in Spider-Man where where not Kevin Spacey, what's
Michael
Kevin
Keaton.
Costner? Michael Keaton. There you go. I got around to one of those white guys. But when we find out that he's the father of the love interest, and that dramatic scene where in the cab, like that was amazing. We talked about that in our review for the movie. Like that was really, I was gripping the armrests of my seat in the theater during that. But in this Thor movie, we don't really get any of that, but we do get really awesome scenes. So I'm not really trying to undercut, any of the awesomeness that's in the movie. But like, I just kind of wanted some drama. Like Odin died. Like, okay, whatever, big deal. He just flies off into a bunch of like fireflies. Carl Urban's character dies. Scourge, he doesn't get to stick around anymore. He died, whatever. The Warriors 3 died. Yeah, what a bit ever. I mean, it's a good thing that Jane Foster isn't around anymore, because I didn't really like her, but they really wrote her out of the movie very easily. That was just like, oh, I dumped her. She didn't dump me. So it's just a lot of stuff was just kind of like brushed off in this movie to kind of make room for the funny jokes. So they're very lucky that the jokes were very, very good and very, very funny. If those jokes weren't funny, like this movie would have bombed, in my opinion. But luckily, Taika Waititi and whoever wrote this movie, I think I got it up here. I should give the person the credit they deserve. So there's a couple writers on this movie, but the one at the top here is Eric Pearson and Craig Kyle and Christopher Yost. Christopher Yost sounds familiar.
Yost and Kyle wrote, I think, the first Thor. Yost wrote The Dark World, and I think they're just kind of like plot points. The first one you mentioned is Eric Pearson.
Yeah.
He's the main writer.
So Eric Pearson and Taika Waititi, they did a very good job writing a very like tight script, and they're lucky that the jokes paid off. But I think, like I'm saying, like you can't really evaluate these Marvel movies so much on their own anymore. In my opinion, I think you kind of have to look at it like the season, the season of 2017 as a whole. Like I think Black Panther is going to be very welcomed into my superhero franchise.
Yeah, see, I'm on the different opinion. I think Spider-Man fails to me. I mean, it doesn't fail, but like is not as good because of the tonality shift in that movie. It goes from like funny, lighthearted, and then dives way like the ending of that is there's no humor, nothing fun in that movie at all. It's all seriousness, and this one is level across the board in terms of humor. That's why it doesn't offend me as much, like because like the humor is there from start to finish. It doesn't stop, and there's no like. There's no like, it just starts funny and then ends because we have to end serious, kind of like Guardians and Spider-Man did. So that's where I'm taking that. I mean, I don't think this was a perfect movie at all. There are parts in it where I was just like, okay, yes, some of these jokes are shotgun effect. Hopefully it sticks kind of thing. A lot of them kind of like, okay. There's a lot of, a lot to be desired in a few scenes. Like, again, I want to see more gladiator battles, not just one gladiator battle.
Yeah, like they talked about that Hulk Thor fight kind of being the main event, and we didn't really get to see any of the warm up events. So I thought maybe Thor would have to fight a couple like lower level people to get to the Hulk. That would have kind of been cool, but we didn't really get that. But we didn't touch on Mark Ruffalo's character too much and how he kind of got into this movie. If you listen to our normal news episodes of Superhero Slate, we talked a couple weeks ago about how originally at the end of Ultron, Hulk was supposed to be last seen flying past Saturn, but in the actual movie, we just see him going off into the horizon, I think over like an ocean or something like that. So in this movie, we just get some brief security cam footage from inside the Quinjet of it looks like Hulk maybe is entering some sort of portal, or maybe he's going from like gravity to zero G. We don't really know how the Quinjet got to space. I think you theorized that, this was an experimental Quinjet made by Stark. Yeah. So it could have possibly had the ability to get to space. But like, I felt like somebody was pulling strings there that either got cut from the movie or they just decided not to show us. And they're like, oh, they won't care. They just want Hulk in space. Let's just get him to space,
Yeah. I mean, they kind of, the introduction of Scourge, well, he had like a redemption story arc, kind of was weird. All in all, he had the shake weight. Which was just like the part of Odin dying was broken up because it flashed back to Scourge not sending them back to Asgard. Because apparently Heimdall was gone. We missed that whole part of why he's gone.
Yeah, we didn't. Apparently, what did they say? He was. doing something against the crown. I think we can just assume that Loki banished him because he wasn't on his side.
Yeah, and then we never saw any comeuppance for Heimdall, other than the fact he was saving people, very Matrix style, like putting them in a cave and hopefully the people don't find us. But I mean, Scourge was very weird, and like I think he could have been part of that, like opening. He stole a bunch of stuff from Earth because he was opening. So he might have maybe stolen the Hulk, and then the Hulk fell out of the Bifrost like Loki and Thor did.
Yeah, like maybe.
And then why is Loki arrived there 2 weeks earlier than Thor again? That was very convenient for them to do that.
Yeah, the other part of the movie that I thought, this is another thing where like I appreciate that it's there, but I don't really think it's necessary, was it's cool that you can put Doctor Strange in your movie, but Doctor Strange did not need to be in this movie whatsoever. The only reason he was needed was because once they got to Earth, they didn't know where Odin was. But that's just because Loki lost track of him. But it would have just been very believable that Loki just knew he was in Norway from the very beginning, and then just they took the Bifrost right to Norway. And then we could have just like cut out the New York scene altogether. I don't think we really needed to, but I felt like maybe there could have been something more there. Like maybe Doctor Strange could have maybe gave Thor maybe a little piece of advice that he could have used later in the movie or something like that. But it's just like, hey, look, we got Doctor Strange and we can put him in the movie. Look, here he is.
No, there was a whole scene of like, remember we talked about this and looked at Crazy Odin, like the old man Odin who had like the world is ending signs in New York. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that was taken out. And I think Doctor Strange was probably, hey, I found this old man saying the world is ending and he has magical abilities, so I had to take care of him, kind of thing. So they took that out and was just like, hey, we still have this whole part of how do we get Loki and Thor around. So I enjoyed that it was actually like footage from the movie that was the end credit scene last time for Doctor Strange, rather than like trying to figure out where does this fit in, like why does it not line up. It was actually a footage from Thor that they put in there. They're like, okay, great. This is the scene where he drinks the beer and it's funny. So, I don't know. That one doesn't bother me as much, but there are parts like I was like, okay, we're doing Planet Hulk. Let's see a little more Planet Hulk. Rather than that, the Grandmaster kind of got off easy again. Like, I don't know what his deal is, but yeah, it's not perfect. But all in all, I mean, I'm gonna go see it again. I'm gonna go see it in IMAX. I got to do it, and I'm really excited to go see it again. Like, I'm not afraid to watch this movie a second time in theaters.
Yeah, you don't need to be afraid to watch the movie, that's for sure.
Yeah, like some movies I'm like, I don't really want to go again. I never saw Spider-Man twice, to be honest, in theaters, as much as I wanted to. So, Thor, definitely going to go see it twice. Is this a Mike Royer twice in theaters, or are you one and done until the release? Because that's a big indicator on the Mike Royer scale.
I think the theater goingness of this movie is not necessarily the spectacle. It's more of just like enjoying the jokes with a crowd. So I think as long as you got that once, you can just have as much fun at home. So I don't know if I necessarily need to see this in theaters again, but I'm kind of curious what's going to happen after that. Those end credit scenes. This happens in every Marvel movie, whether it's good or bad or whether I like it. Once you kind of start to get like halfway through the third act and the ending's coming, the credits are coming soon, it's like, ooh, what's the end credit scene? I don't even care how this movie ends anymore. What's the end credit scene? So, if we know that the Guardians pick up like a battle damaged Thor floating in space, something's going to go wrong like that. Like, is all of Asgard going to get destroyed by Thanos, or is he going to hold Asgard hostage? Are they like, I'm trying to figure out if the Asgardians are going to Earth, like, are they just going to like settle in that really big open field in Norway? Like, Norway's just like, hey, we got a bunch of open room that's like freezing cold. Do you just want to live here for eternity? Like, but that is kind of cool to imagine. Like, I like to think of Earth of having like these like, oh, it has like Wakanda, this really crazy like secret city that's like super high tech. Oh, and also up here in Norway we have like basically these like gods living on the planet. Maybe they'll construct another Asgardian city on Earth, and that'll raise the stakes more for Thor. I mean, for sure, he was protecting Earth because he was kind of the guardian of it, but now he really needs to protect it because that's where all of his people live. So I do like that kind of ups the stakes for him. So that might play interesting in Infinity War.
Well, I mean, Thor's people came to live. Asgard was essentially moved to floating above Oklahoma in the comic books 10 years ago or so for a while. So the comic books have destroyed Asgard, moved the people to Earth, and so on and so forth. So there's definitely a lot of ways they can do that and do it well. So that's there. I mean, to me, we saw the footage of the trailer from San Diego, and he did not have one eye in that trailer. But they did confirm that Thor will only have one eye going forward in the next movies. So
that's how we're gonna keep track of all this maybe supposed time travel. Like, how many eyes does Thor have? That's how we know if we're in the present or the past.
There's a lot going on, to keep track of. But I'm excited for it. I mean, this does. I think a lot of people wanted not Thanos, Heimdall to be the Soul Stone person, the person with the Soul Stone.
Oh, really? That's the first time I heard that theory.
Oh, everyone has said it. I'm like, no, that's dumb. Just because he has orange eyes doesn't mean he has the Soul Stone. And no, it's not dumb. I mean, it's a great thing, but like, not every Infinity Stone has to be on Asgard, which they did say that Gauntlet was fake. How do you feel about them saying the Gauntlet was fake in the Treasury? That was like a big like fake. And
I thought it was kind of funny. Like I did like when Hela just kind of showed up and just started like, disrespecting the place, and she's like, "Here, give me this like giant hammer or axe or whatever. I'm just gonna bash through the freaking floor." So that was kind of cool. I liked how she threw her weight around. She was a really cool bad guy.
Yeah, like she knew that the true history of Asgard, and is like, no, this is just him putting up a front for everybody.
Yeah. So, but before we wrap this thing up, I didn't have a chance to look it up, but I think we talked about this in our news show a while back. The guy who was voice playing Surtur, does he also do the voice for Lex Luthor in the Justice League or Superman animated shows? Because like the whole time I was like, Surtur sounds a lot like Lex Luthor.
I believe so. He actually is Clancy Brown, who's known for doing Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, maybe that's where my head was going, but I was like, what is this voice that's going on?
So
here?
You're looking for what show was he? What show did you think he was in?
Yes, it was Lex. Luckily I have the IMDb page up and ready. I did a Control F for Lex on Clancy's IMDb, and he was Lex Luthor. So
I mean, he's no stranger to voice acting. Family Guy, looks like Iron Man and Captain America, Heroes United, which was a cartoon movie. He played Black Bolt in Hulk and the Agents of Smash, which is funny because he doesn't really talk a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we do see his face in movies sometimes, but I did think it was kind of cool that, like, instead of just getting some famous person to be Surtur, which would have been very easy because you could have put their name on the poster, like, they actually did cast a voice actor. And that was actually, I think that actually affected the scene a lot because, like, I was like, wow, Surtur has, like, a presence because it's actually somebody that understands voice acting.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to see. He was in Earth's Mightiest Heroes. He played Odin in Earth's Mightiest Heroes as well, ironically. So
he gets around.
he does get to play all the fun parts. It looks like if you just go through his IMDb page, man, this is huge. Like even using a spectacular Spider-Man, most people's favorite cartoon Spider-Man show. So I mean, yeah. So that's good. Oh, and speaking of voice actors, before we wrap this up as well, my last bit is this is the first movie where the Hulk was voiced by Mark Ruffalo and not Lou Ferrigno, who's done the Hulk's voice in all the other previous movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because this is the first time we've really ever seen Hulk like articulate sentences as much as he could, and I was like, yeah, this does sound a little different. It took a little bit to get used to be honest. Like the first like couple lines, I was just like, what is going on here? This is very bizarre, seeing him being so vocal. But after a couple scenes, I was okay with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is a fun movie. There's a lot. It's very forgettable, like we said. Like some parts, like it's not very like, oh, I didn't forget the whole movie, but I'm like, man, I need to go back and rewatch a lot of this because I was laughing too much.
Yeah, you remember laughing, but you don't actually remember like the consequences. I know I said one last thing before, but one last thing. Did you catch the Beta Ray Bill on the outside of?
Oh yeah, we talked about that in the trailers. There's Beta Ray Bill Man-Thing has a thing out there, and a couple other. Characters. That's why I need to go back. There's a lot of Easter eggs to go through as well, like background characters and stuff like that. So I really want to go back and see what's up.
Yeah, one of my goals is just to see Beta Ray Bill like actually like modeled at some point in time in this franchise. He doesn't need to be a character in the movie, but I'd love to see like him in the background of a bar in like one of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I just got to see that horse-faced dude just chilling around because he's just the weirdest character design I've ever seen, and I gotta see him in the flesh.
Oh yeah, or whatever they have.
Yeah.
No, I agree. So, yeah, I'm excited to watch it again. I probably couldn't wait till home release, to be honest, because it's so fun. You can put this on and watch it in the background and like pick up your chord lines throughout. That's what I really enjoy about it. So so that's our review. Mike, you want to tell people where they can find you at?
Yeah, if they want to follow me, you can follow me at Mike Royer Design on Twitter and Instagram, and you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, people want to follow you, see what you're up to. You've been doing some cool pop vinyl storage display stuff in your new place. Where can they see that stuff?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Valdan, VALDAN. I do have most of the Thor Ragnarok pop vinyls. I'm missing two right now. One is a unmasked Hela, so without her big spikies, and then a 10-inch Hulk, Gladiator Hulk, which would...
Ooh, got to get that one.
Yeah, he's going to be pretty cool. So I can put those up there. You can also head over to Comic UI and read stuff there. Listen to find my other show, Filmside Chats, on iTunes, or head over to the DNN on YouTube and watch some of the videos we do. I think we may try to get some of the statues for this, open them up on that show. So, because that Hulk... No, the Thor statue, his battle with his armor and stuff would be pretty cool to look at, I think. So.
Oh yeah, that'd be sick.
So there's that. This is our review episode, Mike, but we don't normally do review episodes every week. Where can people find the Superhero Slate news show?
All right, well, if you want to keep up on all the news every week, please visit superheroslate.com. And you can find us on iTunes there, YouTube, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, Stitcher. You can get us right in your email inbox every week. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and follow us on Instagram. If you're a fan of the show, please consider leaving us a review. That'd be really awesome, really helpful. It helps us pop up in all of those crazy algorithms that none of us ever understand. But apparently reviews is good for that. And if you want to be a super fan of the show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend. Share the show with a buddy, and we will be here every week breaking down the news. And like we said, we're here twice a week whenever a movie's dropping, so stay tuned. We're going to be talking about The Punisher here coming up soon. I believe we're going to be talking about The Runaways.
Punisher, Runaways, Justice League,
Star Wars, of course.
Jinx,
yeah, Star Wars, of course.
Yeah, it's a good winter season, I feel. It's a good winter season for everybody. So, subscribe to us. Make sure you get that right away. And I guess we'll catch you guys next time.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.